Welcome to week 4. Now, week 4 is a big week because it's the next week, the next steps in Age Less, Play More. This is where we're going to talk about all the different biohacks, and this is where you can pick and choose which ones you're going to add as your vitality codes, if you like. And so I've split this into part A and part B. And so today we're going to do the mind and the soul part of the next steps. So we're going to start with mind, and we have 3 T's in mind. And the first T is thoughts. Now, we spoke about thoughts a few weeks ago. It was the beginning, isn't it? So all of that is still relevant, but I also want to take it a step further and just explain to you that your thoughts create your feelings create your actions create your outcome. You can change your thoughts at any time, which will change the feelings, change the actions, change the outcome. So, for example, my mum has macular degeneration, so she's legally blind, and it's hereditary. Now, I could think, oh my gosh, my mum's got macular degeneration. That could make me feel scared because it's a good chance that I'll get it. I've got 50% chance of getting it. That could make me act in a way that is fearful, and all of those emotions could stress out my body, and the outcome could be less positive than if I had another thought, which is, wow, my mum has got macular degeneration. How do I feel about that? Well, I feel grateful to know that, because now that I know that, I can do the things, I can take the actions that are going to prevent me getting severe macular degeneration if I'm at risk. So, there's quite good studies about supplements, particularly with lutein and zeaxanthin, they're specific antioxidants for the eye. So I have an eye formula, so I take an eye formula. So my thought has changed from being a thought-feeling, combination that makes me fearful to a thought-feeling combination that makes me feel empowered. And you can do this with any option, and I don't know where it's from. I know it's called the model. I've heard it called the model, where you do this. What's my current situation? What am I thinking about that? How does that make me feel? How does that make me act? What's my outcome? Well, the outcome, you might have started with the outcome at the top. This is the outcome, so what am I thinking? And then you go, okay, what would I like the outcome to be? And how would that make me feel? So how would that make me feel, and what would I think? And so with that thought-feeling process, how would I act? And then you create a different outcome. So basically, you can change your thoughts. So the first mind biohack is in your thoughts. Now I'm just going to check that I've got everything here. And so, as I mentioned previously as well, when you have an intention, so a thought, and you combine it with an elevated emotion like gratitude or love or joy, you can change reality. And so I want to just explain to you, this is quantum physics. So as I said, I know how to turn the key, and I know what happens at the end. I don't necessarily know why in the middle, but that's okay. So let's drive this quantum physics car. And a study was done. So what the study's been done to show that what you put your attention on is what you create. So they did a study. They had this room, a rectangular room, and there was a cage at the end, and they put this robot, sort of like a little robot thing that moved around the ground, and they just put random numbers in it, so it would randomly go anywhere. And so then they had a map of where the robot went randomly. Then they put some baby chicks in the cage. Now those baby chicks had been imprinted to think that the robot was their mother, so they were attached to that robot. That was a big important person in their family, so they put their attention on that robot. And then they put the robot back in the room, random number generation, and the majority of the time the robot was up by the chicks. The only thing that changed is that they put their attention on the robot. It's a very powerful study, and I can post the link if anyone's interested. But this is the really important thing about your thoughts, is that what you want to create, and then you focus on that. So a biohack that you might want to have is to take one of your thoughts, your empowering thoughts or beliefs, even if they're not really deep inside of you, and add them as a biohack, as an affirmation. So as an affirmation to say every day, and that can be the biohack: affirmation, tick it off, affirmation, tick it off, and then you know what the affirmation is, and you just do that. And in a way, we have talked about an affirmation which was. But no, I'm not going to. You have affirmations. Because you have affirmation, everything works out for me. Always works out for me. That if you say that every day, that becomes an affirmation. But you might have something else. You might have something that you want to reframe. It might be a thought that you have that isn't empowering. You want to reframe it. Then make that thought something that you say every day, because your words and your thoughts, when they are repeated and become a habit, become your beliefs. So that might be the biohack that you take. And which affirmation you use, I have no idea. But actually, I think at the beginning of this process, that's quite a good one, number one biohack. So that's the first T of the mind. The next T is tranquility. Sometimes I just have to make words that match. So this is about stress management. So why is it important to manage stress? Stress is a risk factor for just about every life-limiting disease that there is, and it aggravates just about every other disease. So stress is not good for our health and our well-being. And so what happens with stress is when we are stressed, we go into what's called the fight or flight mode, which is the sympathetic nervous system. Now, the fight or flight mode hasn't changed, evolved since, man was a caveman, was in a cave, living in a cave. And it was, if you go back and look at it, what was the purpose? Then the purpose was when there was a danger, let's just say there's some saber-toothed tiger that suddenly comes, out at them. Then what the sympathetic nervous system did, it did everything to make it more likely that you were going to survive this incident. Everything was focused on you, having blood in your muscles so you could run or you could fight. Blood went away from any of the, things like digestion, healing, immune system. It even goes out of thinking, because you just need to be reflex and get through this, moment. And the moment might be 10 minutes or 20 minutes, but at the end of that is either going to be, you're going to be not alive or you're going to have survived. And then you sit there and go, like, wow, that is amazing. I've got through that, and you probably tell the story 100 times to everyone who wanted to know. But the important thing is that the stress response was designed to be on and then off. Now, our brain doesn't know the difference between the stress of a saber-toothed tiger and the stress of being late for a meeting, or the stress of being in a road rage situation, or whatever. So our brain doesn't know the difference between those things. So the same response happens. But the trouble with being late for a meeting, being in traffic, working with colleagues where there's always drama, the trouble is that the fight or flight then never turns off. And that means your body is being flooded with hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which, stress in the short term is fine. It's a survival mechanism. But chronic stress that just goes on and on is not good. And when our body is in the fight or flight, what it isn't in is the rest, restore, relax phase, if you like. Because the alternative phase to the sympathetic nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system, where that's where you do your digestion, that's where you do your growing, that's where your immune system is on duty to get rid of any foreign material or any infection or anything like that. So it's a very important part of our self-healing, is being in that rest, restore, relax mode, as opposed to the fight or flight, because we get different hormones then, and we're more likely to get the bliss hormones that we'll feel good about. So it's very important that we are able to manage our stress and switch off our fight or flight mode. And so the next 3 B's that I've got for how to do this, they will all switch you back from the fight or flight back into the rest, relax and restore, which is the self-healing mode. And when you're self-healing, obviously you're less likely to get disease, and if you're less likely to get disease, you're going to be healthier, and you're going to be healthier for longer. So it's all in line with what we're trying to do. So the first B is breathe. Breathing, deep breathing engages the diaphragm, and diaphragm is engaged, then you engage your vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system. So I'm going to give you 2 exercises. I've shared them with you before, but I'm just going to go over them again. One is what's called the 2X breathing, where you breathe in for 2, breathe out for 4. Breathe in for 2, breathe out for 4. And when you breathe in, you want your belly to expand, like a big Buddha belly, and then you breathe out. And you might do that 10 or 20 times, but that will engage your nervous system. So when you're stressed, the first thing you want to do is breathe. The other breathing, I also mentioned, if if people are a little bit more, want something even a little bit more challenging with their breathing, is to breathe in for 5, hold for 5, breathe out for 5, hold for 5, breathe in for 5, hold for 5, breathe out for 5, hold for 5, and do that 10 times. And instead of counting, you could go in, I am calm, out, or hold, I am calm, out, I am calm, hold, I am calm, in, I am calm. So you could say words that are also going to help calm you down, change your thoughts. Okay, so you could combine it with that if you wanted. So that's the first B. The second B is to be in the now. We can only really be in the now, but most of us spend time worrying about things that have been, ruminating about stuff that's in the past that we can't change, or being fearful about things in the future that haven't even come. So when we're stressed, just being in the now is really important. So how do you get in the now? So there are a number of ways to get in the now. Any mindfulness, meditation, quantum flow practice that I've shared with you, that will get you in the now. Listening to a meditation, the gratitude meditation, will get you in the now. But there are some other tools that you can do. And an easy one is just to think of the 5 senses and just say to yourself, what are 5 things I can see right now? And you have a look, and so you're not judging. It's not like, oh my gosh, the carpet needs a clean. No, oh well, I can see, I can see a carpet, and it's got an orange star on it. I can see the photograph on the wall. I can see the door. I can see. So 5 things I can see, and then 4 things I can hear. And I don't know if you can hear, but I can hear cicadas right now. I can hear my own voice. If I really listen, I can hear some people doing some things outside. So 4 things that you can hear. And don't worry if you can't find 4, but it's just, let me see if I can. Then 3 things that you can feel. Well, I can feel and you may switch these around, doesn't matter, but I can feel my hair against my cheek. I can feel my hip, my sit bones on the seat. I feel, there's a cold, it's not really a draft, it's like a breeze coming through the door. What else do I feel? Okay, and then, so that's 5, 4, 3, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Taste you leave it last, because usually we can just taste 1 thing at a time. So that just doing that practice will bring you back into the moment. That sort of I wonder type of thing. So not analysing, just being open. So being in the now is a really important thing. I mean, there are books written about it. So having some tools to do that. So it's all very well to say be in the now, but how do you do that? So as I said, meditation, mindful practice, or use that 5 senses technique. And finally, B for stress is beat the obstacle. Like you're going to beat it. So, and this comes back from the telomere science that shows that you get longer telomeres if you view obstacles as challenges rather than threats. So every time anything happens, you go, oh no, this has happened to me again. That's shortening your telomeres, as opposed to, oh gosh, really? Okay, I've got this. Do you see? And how do you, how can you look at it as a challenge rather than a threat? As I've got this, or you can start building that muscle by a daily affirmation of everything always works out for me, and that's a belief that you have, and I have that belief. So even when things come and I'm like, what? And sometimes I'm like, what is this for? So rather than like, oh, this is terrible, I say, okay, what is this for? What's the lesson I'm supposed to get here? Because I want to get the lesson quickly so this can move off. So yeah, so you wanna be in that mode that, yeah, I've got this. And the other way is you can distance yourself. So you can either distance yourself in time. So it's like, is this going to matter in 5 years' time? Is what's happening now going to be of any importance to me in 5 years' time? Or, whatever the outcome is. And if the answer is no, okay, it isn't important. At least you know that. And also distance yourself in person. So look at yourself as an observer and go, what's Maud really thinking here? What's going through Maud's mind? Why is this causing Maud so much issues? Like that wondering as well is a good way of distancing yourself. Okay, so I think that is all for the second part of mind, because it's quite big, these modules. So we've got mind, and in the beginning of mind we've got thoughts, and then we've got, I'm just going to turn the page because I have got notes. I mean, I know what I'm saying, I just don't want to forget things. We've got thoughts, we've got tranquility, stress busters, and then we've got thank you. We'll come back to gratitude again. And there are so many benefits to gratitude. And the thing about gratitude is it's probably the easiest elevated emotion to tap into. Because elevated emotions like joy, happiness, love, all of those are great. But sometimes the harder, like you might not feel, if you're feeling a bit challenged, for example, it might not be easy, to feel in love or to have happiness. But if you stop for a moment, you can always feel something to be grateful for. There's always something to be grateful for. So gratitude is the easiest elevated emotion really to tap into. And remember, I've talked about this quantum physics, that when you have a thought or intention with an elevated emotion, feeling, then you create the most amazing reality. So when you're, I am happy and thankful, you set your intention, I am happy and thankful for whatever, you're starting off with that gratitude elevated emotion, and then you're saying the thought, you're going to bring it into reality more easily. And I quite like Michael Beckwith talked about gratitude, and he said, there are 3 phases of gratitude. There's gratitude for something that is good for you. So I'm grateful that I get to come and stay in this beautiful family house that's off-grid. You can only get here by boat. I love that. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to do that. So you're grateful for something that's good. That you're also grateful for the challenges, because the challenges come to help us grow. So that when the challenges come, as I just sort of mentioned as well, thank you for showing up. Now, let me figure out, I'm grateful that you've shown up. Why are you showing up? I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this, but where's it going to take me? I'm grateful for the challenges that come to my life because they help me grow. And the third thing is just being grateful for being grateful. It's an attitude of life. I'm grateful. I'm just grateful for everything. wow, look at this. I'm so happy, I'm so grateful, I'm so happy and thankful. So you be grateful for just being for just being. Okay, and remember, you've got the gratitude meditation that you can do, and if you like, how do I get into gratitude even, then just do that gratitude meditation. There are lots of tools. Little recap, that was mind. In mind, I had my 3 T's: thoughts, tranquility, which is stress busters, and thank you, which is gratitude. So they are important things. So you want to see if you can pull out 1 or 2 vitality codes or biohacks from that to add to your playbook, if you like. And finally in the session, we're going to go to soul. So the overarching premise for aging youthfully is my overarching one, and I'm going to share it with you. You can choose to have it as yours or not, is my LBD formula. And no, it's not having a cute little black dress. It's my love yourself, be the change you want to see, and defy expectations. So in love yourself, you have to really foster self-love. And I'm going to talk more about self-love in part B of this session, so in body, but it's part of the soul as well. So you need to, I'm going to give you my 3 S's for self-love, is regularly say yes to things that light you up, no to things that don't light you up, and no to things, particularly if you think it's a I should do this. No, that sounds like a no. Unless it's a hell yes, it's a no. And say no to things, and bye. So yes, no, bye. Say bye to things that don't serve you anymore, and that might be relationships. Might just be decluttering your closet, but it could be relationships. So that's self-love. So this year I had to really cut ties with someone who's been in my life for a very long time. And on the one hand, it felt quite sad, but on the other hand, I understood that it was the only way I was going to show myself respect and love, was to cut that tie. And so that's my that's the first part of the first S in my self-love formula. The next is self-talk. How do you talk to yourself? Do you talk to yourself as if you're your best friend, or do you talk to yourself like a mean girl? How do you talk to yourself? Your cells are listening. Your cells are listening. Talk to yourself with love. Talk to yourself with kindness. Talk to yourself with tolerance. It's like, just be kind. Be kind to yourself. Just use words that are kind. You don't have to be mean. There's no need to be mean. So how do you talk to yourself? And the final S is your skin, and how you treat your skin, and that is going to come up a little bit more in the body, so I'm not going to say anything more about that. So the first overarching principle is love yourself, and the next one is be the change that you want to see. Be. So if you want more tolerance in the world, you need to show more tolerance. If you want more love, show more love. You have to give to get. So be the change that you want to see. And then the last bit of the LBD formula is defy expectations. And that's just basically, just because somebody says this is what old looks like, I don't care. Just because you say it, I'm going to defy expectations. It's almost like if I've seen those things as like, 20 things, women shouldn't wear after the age of 50, for example, and then they'll have a whole list of things. Well, replace that with 50 things a woman shouldn't wear after the age of 50. The weight of other people's expectations times 50. 50 times, because you don't lose it. Can you have short hair? Do you have large hair? Have long hair? Who cares? Who cares? It's up to you. You're allowed to express yourself. It's not for anybody else to suddenly give you, oh, you have to do that. Those rules are bullshit. And I sort of say that because there's a bullshit rules terminology that Vishen Lakiani from Mind Valley calls brawls. So all of those rules are really brawls. They're rubbish. Okay, so excuse my language there, but really that's what needed to be said about it. Defy expectations if you really want to come from a place to age youthfully. And then that overarching principles, there are 3 F's to the soul. So the first F is forgiveness. So a trait that they found in the blue zones is the ability to forgive and not hold grudges. And it's really important to understand that forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean condoning what someone else has done. For example, I said I had to cut ties with somebody. They did something that was really not good. It was not okay. I forgive them because I don't want to carry the weight of that. I've forgiven them, but I haven't condoned it. I've cut the tie. The tie cutting is like, that was not okay. You're forgiven now, that's fine. I'm not carrying any judge. Because when you don't forgive, it's you carry the stuff. It's a weight on you. You're carrying it. And that weight changes your vibration. And it's very hard to live in the elevated emotions when you're carrying all of that. And so how do you get into forgiveness? I'm just going to share one tip for that. And it's an ancient Hawaiian practice called Ho'oponopono. And you basically say 4 statements. And it doesn't matter the order. I'm just going to give you the order I say them in. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Now, when you first start saying that, if you've got somebody, you don't have to say, you don't need to say that to their face. You just have to say it in your head. So you can say it at night and you're thinking about somebody that you've got an issue with, and you can say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And keep saying, because initially I'll be like, oh, that feels bad to say. So keep saying it until there's no charge in it, that you've released it. Now you might be going, well, hold it a second. They have injured me. Why am I saying sorry? Well, if you really take a wider view of the world, we are all one, and we co-create. So we create the situations, however hard a pill it might be to swallow. We are a co-creator in whatever situation and whatever reality appears for us. And when you take responsibility for that, so you have a part to play. Even though, in your mind you are the victim, there is a part to play. Maybe even you playing the victim and feeling like the victim has created this. I don't know. I'm not going to judge. But the point about it is that the practice works, and it works in this sequence. And so just try it. And if you want to read more about it, it's really interesting because it is an ancient practice, but a Dr. Hugh Len, who is a psychiatrist, it was in Hawaii, and he was there was this notoriously difficult criminal mental health facility with, people, the staffing never stayed, the plants didn't live. It was a terrible, terrible facility with a lot of bad things, and people who had really, were there having really done quite horrendous things, but were in this mental health facility, the psychiatric facility. And he basically turned this whole thing around. He changed the whole dynamic of this place. So much so that plants grew, that people stayed, that the inmates, if you like to call them that, or the patients maybe, really lost a lot of their aggression and the things that were holding them back. And he did it by going through their notes. He went through the notes before he even got there, and he just said, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I don't know how many times he said it, but he said it loads of times. and he said it to all of those inmates, and he changed the whole energy there. It's pretty amazing. So forgiveness is a very important thing. We know from the blue zones that it's really important, but it's also really important energetically. You don't want to carry that stuff. So that's my first F. The second F is friends. So we know from the blue zones, and particularly if we look at Okinawa, they have a name for it. They call it moai, and it's strong social support networks. And there it includes, people who are going to support you if you are in financial distress, support you if you're in emotional distress, support you if you're, you would support you in every single way. And it shows in all the areas of the blue zones that there are strong social networks of support. Now, you might be like, well, I don't have a strong social network, but it's something that you can look at maybe improving if you don't already. Maybe, join a group, like if you have an interest, maybe a walking group even. That could have a double whammy, a walking group. But, join a group where you get to meet people, and then you can create friendships. Because although, we have friends from a long time ago and we lose touch, sometimes we can reconnect, and we can also create new friendships. And, with the social media, we can even have friendships that are virtual. You can have meet-up coffee mornings or things online. So there are ways that you can have friendships, even if you feel like you don't have any friends. You can look in and see how you can get them, but friendships are really important. And finally, having a fertile mind is really important. So a fertile mind just means keep learning, and I have my ABLE acronym. You might be laughing at all my acronyms, but my ABLE one is this: acquire a new skill. So that might be learn photography. I'm learning to play bridge at the moment. Learn a dance. Learn something new. Learn to knit. Learn another language. Well, actually, it's a skill. So actually, we're adding a skill. So adding a skill. So, but a skill is learning another language. So you add a skill. The B is be a different you. And so what I mean by that is do something different. So like we tend to have habits. I usually brush my teeth with my right hand. I'm right-handed. So I could start using my left hand. Why would I want to do that? Well, it will create new neural pathways. And we want to always be creating new neural pathways. So, if you always get out of bed on one side and you have the ability to get out on the other side, just get out of bed on the other side. Just be something different. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to suddenly become something different. It's just like, just be a different you. So do things differently. So your brain has to learn something new. And then the L is learn something. So that's, when I say learn something, that's more like reading, listening to a podcast, having someone, like just being more passive rather than the skill, which is more active. So learn something. And the last E is inquire. So always be curious. I wonder why. I wonder what that is. Tell me about your point of view. Let me see. Just be a curious person. Don't be stuck in the mud. So that is my soul. That is my soul overview. So an overview of love yourself, be the change you want to see, defy expectations, on top of the 3 Fs: forgiveness, friendships, and have a fertile mind. And I'm going to add another F in there. I'm just going to do that because I'm a rebel. And it's have the feels. Like, do something that makes you feel zingy, that makes you feel alive. I think in whatever way that could look for you. So the task for today is to choose from the mind and the soul 2 to 5, 6 vitality codes that you're going to add to your playbook. So that the things that, and you don't have to do it all at once. You might go, well, I want to add them all. Well, this is a dynamic process. choose ones that you think, that you really need to work on right now. Do those ones first. And particularly, if your thoughts and beliefs need work on, put a lot of effort into those ones, and then you can move on. Like, creating new friendships might be down the line if your thoughts aren't right, and if you don't have stress busters, they're really important to get sorted out. So I will see you again in part B.